kind of knife are we using today? Boning. This is a boning knife. A boning knife is what you use to cut meat with. So on your mise en place, you will have two knives. You will have a boning knife and a chef knife. Because you need a chef knife when you cut your onions and your mushrooms. Okay, so we're going to cut off the fat. We're going to cut off the fat that's up at the end. And some of you, when you get yours, there might be some fat running down the side. Wherever the heck the fat is, you don't need the fat. Okay, so put it on the side. Put the fat on the side. And then you want to cut with the grain of the meat. So can you see that the grain of the meat's going this way? You want to cut with the grain of the meat. And it says 1/4 by 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch. So the key is that they all be the same. So since my meat's 1/2 inch thick, I'm going to kind of leave it and make them like this. Because that's what I started doing earlier. Okay? As long as they're all kind of the same, then they're going to cook the same, right? Just like cookies and muffins and everything else we've made. So you could cut them, so if you did it like it said in there, this is more like 1/8 inch thick, okay? You could cut them thicker and then cut them in half this way so that you would have them looking more like a batonnet, okay? But you just need to do what when you cut them? All the same. So if you choose to make them skinnier and fatter, fine. But if you want to cut all batonets like French fries, that's fine too. Just make them what? All the same. Okay? And you're going with the grain of the meat. And because your meat's going to be different sizes, do you think they're all going to be exactly 1.5 inches long? No, they're not going to be exactly 1.5 inches long. But you're going to, be as close as you can. But when we get to the end, obviously they're going to be too little. And so obviously you want a bowl next to you to throw them in. Okay, so once again, this is what the end of your meat's going to look like. And there may be like a seam here between part of it, and you want to cut all that off because that's not going to taste very good. Not going to taste very good at all. And we got a little spot over here. Now, I will come to look at your trays. Before you throw your meat away, I'll kind of want to see it. Before you even toss it in the flour, let me see it because maybe I need to save more meat. Maybe you've cut too much off and I think some is good. Okay? Okay, so this guy looks kind of ready. And which way is the grain? Do we remember? This way, this way. How can you tell? How can you tell? Because you can see the striations, I believe is the formal word. Okay? So we're going to go, we got another bad little piece down here. It was on the seam. Had a lot of fun cutting up meat before you guys got here. Okay, we're just going to put this in here because it needs to melt. And it can melt on the what? The pilot light. So you could have put it in there before you even started to cut the meat. Okay, now you got the flour that you toss, and you're just going to toss your meat in the flour. We're melting our shortening. You need one skillet for the veggies, and you need one braising pot. What does it say? It says pan fry. What's the description of pan fry?
A small amount of oil and like 100.
Okay, so it should be medium-high heat. It should not be very hot. Should not be very hot. So you want your burner to not be all the way up. Not be all the way up. I don't want to come in here and hear crackling. If I hear crackling from your burners, then I know it's too hot, right?
For how long do you put them in there for?
You're just going to brown them, hun. And then we're going to add some liquid. This is a braising technique. Actually, it's stew because we have little pieces of meat. What do you do when you stew, guys?
Put in a liquid.
Small pieces of meat, browned, covered with liquid, cook till they're done. Isn't that stewing? Not major. In your saucepan, you've got your shortening that you're going to melt. Now, mind you, you're not going to do this until this is cooking, right? You're going to get this all cooking before you even have any vegetables that are cut, okay? You're gonna cook it in the braising pan, and then you're gonna put the liquid on it, and you're gonna save your skillet for what, Walker? Your veggies, that's right. And brown, you notice that I can't hear it from over there, that you're cooking meat, right? Can you hear it? Can you hear it a little bit? Okay, okay. Now, you would want your stock to be warm, right? But this was put in the refrigerator, so it's not warm. So it's probably gonna make a little noise when we put it in the pan, okay? Now, at this point in time, you wanna come see the meat again? You can't see anything pink? Yes, you wanna see or no? You're good, okay, so you can't see anything pink now. And you're gonna add your stock, and it's gonna cover up all of your meat. Smells. Worcestershire sauce. What do you gotta do to it? What do you gotta do to it?
Put the lid on it.
First you gotta do what? Bring it to a boil. So we're gonna turn the flame up a little bit so we can bring it to a boil. Then after it starts boiling, then we're gonna put the lid on and we're gonna turn it down so it's simmering, okay? Another thing I find that when the students make this, sometimes it's simmering too high, it's really boiling, and they forget about it, and they don't look at it. And then when they do look at it, it's completely charred on the bottom and stuck to the pan, okay? So, while it's over here simmering, you know, like every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you ought to check it. If the water boiled out, what could you do to fix it? Add more water. Add more water. It's going to have to cook for about an hour, so if it's all boiled out, just add some more water. The beef broth is still there, right? The water just flashed. I now have my other shortening, and it's in the skillet, and I've got my mushrooms, and I've got my onions. So that's probably cooked for how many minutes? 15 or 20 while you're cutting up your mushrooms and your onions. Your onion is to be minced, and mushrooms are to be cut in slices. And make sure you get all the dirt off of them, okay? And we remember you have to cut a little bit off the bottom. Everybody remembers that from all the mushroom things we've done? Okay.
Do you need a thermometer?
You will not need your thermometer to temp your meat, but you should always have a thermometer in order to be in lab, okay?
Well, I'm just saying.
But you don't need it to temp your meat because it's going to be braising forever. It's going to be braising forever. Okay. So now that meat's probably cooked for, 20, maybe 30 minutes by the time you get to doing it. You do want to keep checking it though, make sure it's boiling, still boiling, and that it still has water in it. Nine bowls today. A couple big bowls, bunches of little bowls, right? Think of a whitewash. Whitewash means that you're going to use a flour to cook the mushrooms. Does everybody know what a cooked mushroom looks like? Yeah. Cooked mushroom, you know what it looks like? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you look at these when they're all done, just so you're sure. So we're going to add the water to the flour, and we're going to mix it up and make a whitewash. And the difference between this and a roux is, and what's in a roux? Margarine and flour, and it's cooked. A whitewash is water and flour. It needs to boil. Okay, so it's got to come back to a boil, which actually, if you're doing it right, it should be you should see little bubbles in there. And then the flour will thicken it up because of the boiling. And then we have our last ingredient to add. Now, before you did this, what would you have done to the meat? Because I think I didn't show you that step. You would have taken a fork and you would have tasted a piece. Otherwise, you got to make sure you taste the meat, and it needs to be tender. And then you're going to add your whitewash, and you're going to bring it to a boil. There we go. It's boiling. Okay. And so it's going to boil for just a few minutes, and it's thickening while it's boiling. And why do you think you mix the water with the flour? Because we don't want any lumps. We don't want any lumps in here, so we got to make sure there's no lumps, okay? Okay, and then it's going to tell you to add the sour cream right before serving, okay? So it wants you to let it bring it to a boil and then simmer it to thicken it. And I'm going to tell you, if you've done this kind of quite right after it boils for just about a minute, it's just about perfect. Do we want to look? Want to look and see what this looks like? I think you ought to look before we put the sour cream in, okay? Okay, so then you have your third of a cup because you do sour cream in what kind of measuring cup? Rye, even though it's a wet ingredient because it's just easier. Just like peanut butter, right? Like peanut butter. Okay, and you want to turn on, you want to put the sour cream in, you want to turn off the flame, you want to stir it all up. And then when you bring it to me, when you put it up on the table, you're going to leave your noodles and your stroganoff separate. But when you do it for the final exam at the end of the year, if this would be the scenario, you would need to plate it. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to need some tongs to put your noodles in. How many servings was this? Does anybody know? It was 3 to 4, so you're not putting half the noodles on the plate, right? You're putting, kind of eyeball it with your whatever, okay? And for your final, you only have to bring me 1 serving. I believe that this final has steamed broccoli with the beef stroganoff, so I'm leaving room to put the broccoli. It might be asparagus. I don't really remember, but there's some vegetable that goes with this, okay? And then, now remember how much of the servings, this was 3 to 4 servings, so it's an eyeball kind of thing, guys. You're gonna put it on top, but don't give me half, and make sure there's some sauce, okay? So that's just how that should look, except what do I still need to do? What is it, can anybody tell what I need to do before I would bring it? I need to clean the plate, that's right, I need to clean the plate. And if you were gonna garnish this, does anybody have a thought with what you might garnish it with?
Something cooked.
Something cooked.